No one dared approach her, until the human pilot quietly took the seat at her side. The orbital station of Orion Prime was a place of mingling civilizations, where the banners of 100 worlds rippled against the artificial breezes of its grand promenade. To outsiders, it was a marvel of peace, markets thrumming with alien voices, docks lined with sleek starships, and academies where minds from every corner of the galaxy gathered. Yet even in such a place, there were divisions. At the center of the Academy's great hall, she always sat alone. Her name was Calith Suraven, last daughter of the once mighty House Suraven. Her people, the Illyrians, had ruled swathes of space until their fleets were shattered in a disastrous war they hadn't started but couldn't avoid. Now, Illyrians were treated with distrust, whispers shadowing them as warmongers and traitors. So Calith, with her silver-white hair and eyes like burning amethyst, was left to herself. Even those curious about her brilliance in xenophysics never dared sit beside her at the long tables of the Academy's atrium. She was beautiful, but untouchable, a remnant of something broken. And then one day he sat down. No words, no hesitation. Just the quiet scraping of a chair as a tall, broad-shouldered figure lowered himself beside her. He wore the simple uniform of the United Terran Flight Corps, marked by the winged insignia on his chest. His skin was weathered from service, his hair cut close, and his eyes were steady and gray, like steel under clouds. The whispers started at once. A human pilot? With her? Does he know who she is? Calith felt the stares burning into her, but the human didn't so much as glance around. He simply unpacked his datapad, laid it on the table, and began scrolling through diagrams. The silence between them was not awkward. It was something else. Something that pierced the veil of her solitude. Finally, Calith tilted her head, her voice soft yet edged. "You know who I am, don't you?" The man looked up, meeting her eyes without flinching. Calith Suraven, top of the class in xenophysics. Illyrian exile. She stiffened at the bluntness, ready for the scorn she had grown used to. But instead he added, "Name's Captain Dane Valen. Human. Pilot. I need a partner for the upcoming interstellar navigation trials. You're the best." Calith blinked. "You want me as your partner?" "I don't care about the politics," Dane said, eyes locked on hers. "I care about winning. The beginning of something unlikely." Against all expectation, Calith agreed. Perhaps it was pride, perhaps a flicker of curiosity at his indifference to the hostility that surrounded her. Whatever the reason, the days that followed drew them closer. The navigation trials were more than a contest. They were grueling tests of intellect, reflex, and trust. Dane piloted with calm precision, weaving through asteroid fields and gravitational traps. Calith calculated trajectories, corrected course errors in milliseconds, and optimized their jump algorithms. Together, they were unstoppable. And as the competition advanced, whispers turned to astonishment. The Illyrian exile and the human pilot were not only holding their own, they were dominating. But in the quiet moments between training runs, Calith found herself studying Dane. He was not like the other humans she had met, ambitious, loud, quick to mock. He carried himself with the weight of experience, as though every scar and line on his face had been earned in battles no one else had witnessed. "Why did you really sit beside me?" she asked one evening, as they drifted in orbit over Orion Prime after a trial run. Dane leaned back in his chair, staring out at the stars. "Because you were alone, and I know what that feels like." Something in his voice carried more than words. Calith didn't press, but she felt the walls she had built begin to crack. The middle, shadows rising. Their partnership did not go unnoticed. Among the competitors was Commander Zorith Kryn, a rival from the Threx Dominion. Ambitious and cruel, Kryn had always despised Illyrians, blaming them for conflicts that had scarred his people. Seeing Calith rise again with human support was unbearable to him. "You think hiding behind a human makes you strong?" Kryn sneered after a match. His scaled jaw flexed, his golden eyes glowing with contempt. "Without him, you're nothing but the last ember of a dead house." Calith's hands tightened, but before she could speak, Dane stepped forward. His voice was low, but carried steel. "Funny. From where I'm standing, you're the one losing." Kryn bared his teeth, but the officials intervened. Yet his hatred lingered, growing like a storm cloud. The final round of the trials approached, a deep space run through the Nebula of Whispers, a region infamous for its unstable graviton tides and electromagnetic storms. Competitors would need perfect synchronization to survive, let alone win. The night before departure, Calith and Dane sat together in the empty atrium. For once, the hall was quiet, their data pads forgotten. "You don't have to trust me," Dane said suddenly, breaking the silence. "But I need you to know, I'll never leave you in the fire. Not then, not now." Calith's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever promised to stand with her, knowing the weight of her past. The Nebula Run. The Nebula of Whispers was a maelstrom of light and shadow. Ionized gases twisted into glowing tendrils, storms roared with silent fury, and gravitational wells opened and closed like the jaws of predators. Inside their sleek racing vessel, Calith's fingers danced across the controls, calculating impossible trajectories. Dane's hands gripped the yoke, his instincts guiding them through chaos. They moved as one, their breaths sinking with each near disaster averted. But Kryn was waiting. His ship swooped from the storm, weapons blazing. Illegal, but concealed until now. Energy blasts rattled their shields. Dane cursed, pulling hard to starboard. "He's trying to kill us." Calith cried. "No," Dane growled. "He's trying to kill you." The realization cut deep, but there was no time to dwell. Calith rerouted power to the shields, while Dane pushed the engines beyond safety limits. The ship screamed under the strain, but still they surged forward. Kryn's vessel closed in, claws outstretched. At the last second, Dane glanced at Calith. "Trust me?" She nodded. With a roar, Dane killed the thrusters and spun into the gravitational current of a collapsing singularity. The ship whipped around in a bone-crushing arc, slingshotting past Kryn and hurling them out of the nebula. When the light cleared, they were first across the finish. The ending, a seat at her side. The hall erupted as they returned, their ship battered but victorious. For the first time since her exile, Calith was not met with silence or scorn. Applause thundered around her. Strangers clapped her on the back, congratulated her brilliance, and, most shocking of all, smiled at her. But Calith only had eyes for Dane. "You risked everything," she whispered as they stood side by side. Dane smiled faintly. "Told you. I don't leave people in the fire." And for the first time in years, Calith felt the heavy shadow of her past lighten. She was no longer the untouchable exile, the lonely figure at the empty table. She was someone's partner, someone's friend. The next day, as the atrium filled once more with students and pilots, Calith sat in her usual place. Whispers began again, curious and